Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I am joined today by Tamara Littleton, the co founder of Pulpeo, which is one of our preferred partners with the Clarity Global Crisis Council. So, talking again about crises through the lens of social media specifically, but really in integrated communications. I think so many of our modern day crises, they feel completely unprecedented. But unprecedented doesn't mean unpredictable. And I want to talk a little bit about that. And in particular, when we're talking through crisis response and crisis preparedness, how can we predict these? And how does crisis simulation, the work that Pulpeo does, how does that serve and solve for both sides of crises?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that the risk register for companies has changed a lot over the last 5 years, including everything that we went through in the pandemic. But also, there's been a massive change in the geopolitical landscape and more polarized views generally. The key thing I would say about crisis preparation is that you can never predict everything that could happen, but by running simulations and focusing on preparedness, you do get into a mindset of being ready for anything. So it's more about a way of training your brain in many ways. It's not really about the actual scenario because you can kind of do lots of sort of planning for those scenarios but it's more, it does help if you can rehearse something that's fairly likely to happen, maybe like a cyber attack. That I think most people think that that could happen at some point, but there's so many things that we don't know that they're around the corner. But if you're training your brain and your body not to react to the fight, flight, or freeze reaction that happens to most of us when we're under extreme pressure and in a crisis situation, so the more you can practice that, the more you will stay calm in a crisis and will feel safe. And there will always be a new crisis that happens that no one saw coming. There's going to be so many things that in years to come will be like, we just did not see that coming. But if you're trained to become someone that runs towards a crisis rather than runs away, then you've got a head start on managing that in real life.
I couldn't agree more. And I think in our industry in particular, so many of those crises experts are seen as experts because they've been through it. They've been in the trenches. And I think what's so interesting about crisis simulation is you can manufacture that expertise and you can grow and prepare that expertise without actually having to survive a crisis. And wouldn't that be wonderful for internal communications teams to be able to learn that through a strong partnership?
Yeah, and the key thing being team there, that I think it's not about just individuals being experienced, having a whole team that can work together and go through a simulation together. It means that they are going to be much more highly functioning.
Mhm. So I know you've been doing this for many years. What do you find as the sort of primary before and after response that you're getting from teams as they are going through a simulation and learning how to handle a crisis?
I think it is that confidence that when you sort of put through that situation, but you know that ultimately that you can sort of fail safely. That's what we like to say. It's an opportunity to fail safely. People grow their confidence because they can see that what they're doing is having an impact. We use role players behind the scenes as well as the content, so everything they're doing feels immersive and realistic. So that confidence grows, but it's not just about testing your communication. It's about how are you acting with your teammates, and you sort of see them come out of their shells and become brilliant leaders, for example. I think that's the bit that you can't quite, sort of put your finger on, but that's one of the outcomes.
Yeah, and I think that speaks a lot to obviously your and my shared background, which is in integrated communications. I feel like oftentimes organizations think of crisis response only through the lens of traditional media relations or corporate communications. But when we're talking about crisis simulation, it's really a holistic 360 response from internal to external comms, digital, social, traditional media. I mean, you're really helping folks to prepare for all of those avenues, right?
Absolutely. And I think one thing that gets mentioned a lot is the speed. So, it used to be the case that people could have 24 hours to get a press release out, maybe 48 hours for a few years further back. Um, but now it's more like, 15 minutes, or knowing when to not say something as well, because you can make a situation worse. So, but I think, understanding just how fast something can blow up because of the way that information is disseminated on social, and the way that mainstream news reports what's happening on social, it becomes this sort of whole sort of big thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that speed of reaction is something that has changed a lot.
Absolutely. I think that that brings it full circle. That's a modern day crisis. It's completely unprecedented, but it's not unpredictable, and we know how and what it'll look like, and I think preparing for that is so important for teams to learn. Thanks so much.